What if I told you that everything you've ever learned, calculus, a new language, how to ride a bike, you didn't actually learn it? What if you were just remembering something your soul already knew? I know, it sounds pretty out there, but this is the wild idea at the very heart of Plato's philosophy. And honestly, it's a journey worth taking. So let's get into it. Think about it for a second. Can you really know something you were never taught? It seems like a trick question, right? Impossible. Well, keep that puzzle in your mind because it's the exact problem a philosopher set out to solve more than 2,000 years ago, right in the middle of a busy Athenian marketplace. Okay, so our story starts with one of the most famous thinkers of all time, Socrates. And he's got a pretty impossible task in front of him, to prove that knowledge can be pulled out of someone who has never been taught a thing about the subject. So, picture this. The scene comes to us from Plato's famous dialogue, the Meno. Socrates, having been challenged on this very point, calls over a young slave boy. And this is key. The boy has had zero formal schooling, definitely no math class. The stage is set for a pretty incredible demonstration. Now look, this is no simple trick question. The challenge he gives the boy is a legitimate geometry problem. It's not intuitive, and the answer isn't something you can just stumble upon by guessing. And remember, this kid has absolutely zero mathematical training. So how does Socrates pull this off? Well, he doesn't lecture. He doesn't give hints. His only tool is asking questions. He starts simple, right? A 2x2 square. He says, okay, the area is 4. What's the area of a square double this size? The boy gets it right away, 8. But then, when it comes to figuring out the side length, he gets it wrong. And instead of correcting him, Socrates just keeps asking questions, gently guiding the boy to see his own mistakes and rethink the whole problem from a different angle. And then, you get the breakthrough moment. Through this patient, persistent questioning, the boy figures it out all by himself. He realizes that a square built on the diagonal of that original 2x2 square has the perfect area of 8. He wasn't told this, he discovered it. And this is where Socrates drops the bombshell. He turns to his friend Meno and essentially asks, so if I didn't teach him the answer, and he didn't know it before we started, where on earth did this knowledge just come from? For Socrates, there was only one possible explanation. It had to be recollection. And this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? The demonstration is over, but the real mystery is just getting started. If the boy didn't learn it from Socrates, and he certainly didn't learn it in school, how in the world did he solve that problem? Well, Plato's answer to this puzzle is one of the most powerful and honestly mind-bending ideas in all of philosophy, the theory of recollection. The fancy Greek term for this is anamnesis, and the idea is just breathtaking. It goes like this: our souls are immortal. Before we were born into these bodies, our souls existed in this perfect heavenly realm, a world of what Plato called forms. And there they had direct access to pure truth, the essence of justice, the nature of beauty, and yeah, even the universal laws of geometry. According to Plato, being born into a physical body gives the soul a kind of amnesia. And what we call learning is actually just us trying to remember what our souls already knew all along. Plato uses this really beautiful metaphor to describe it. He says Socrates' questions didn't implant anything new in the boy's mind. Nope, they just acted like a trigger, stirring up these dormant ideas, bringing them to the surface, as he puts it, as in a dream. The knowledge was already in there, just sleeping, waiting to be woken up. Now, you might think this is just some quirky idea from ancient Athens, but it actually lit a fire that started a 2,500-year debate about the human mind. A debate between those who think we're born knowing things and those who think we start as a total blank slate. Plato's idea of innate knowledge just kept echoing through history. I mean, fast forward a couple thousand years to the 1640s, and you had the philosopher René Descartes arguing that ideas like God and infinity are implanted in our minds at birth. Then, a century later, Immanuel Kant took it even further, saying that concepts like space and time aren't things we learn from experience, they're the very framework of experience itself. I just love this quote from Descartes. For him, these innate ideas weren't memories from a past life. They were more like a divine signature, a craftsman's trademark that God stamped into every human mind he created. It's a really cool modern spin on Plato's basic concept. So this huge philosophical debate basically splits into two camps. On one side, you've got the rationalists, guys like Plato and Descartes. They believe reason is the main source of knowledge and that our minds come preloaded with some basic ideas. But on the other side, you have the empiricists, led by John Locke. They argued that the mind at birth is a tabula rasa, a blank slate, and that every single thing we know is built up piece by piece from what our five senses tell us. But, this whole idea of a soul that exists before the body, well, it has some huge consequences. It creates this really sharp divide between the mind or the soul and the physical body. And Plato's view of the body would end up clashing in a major way with other traditions down the line. For Plato, it's pretty clear. The body is a prison. It's a source of distraction, of messy emotions, of errors. It basically chains the soul down and keeps it from grasping pure truth. So for a philosopher, the ultimate hope is to escape the body at death. Now, that is a world away from the Christian view, where the body is seen as a good creation of God. The problem isn't the body itself, but sin, which corrupts the whole person. And the ultimate hope isn't escape, but the glorious resurrection of the body. Now, thinkers like the Apostle Paul also talked about a really intense internal struggle. When he says, "I do not do the good I want to do," that sounds a little like Plato's conflict, doesn't it? But the diagnosis is completely different. For Paul, this isn't a pure soul fighting against a physical body. It's a moral and spiritual battle against sin that's raging inside the entire person, body and soul, together. But really, the ultimate challenge to Plato's view here is the Christian doctrine of the incarnation. The idea that God himself would take on a physical human body is just unthinkable if you believe the body is fundamentally a prison. It's this profound statement that the physical world, including our bodies, is fundamentally good enough for God to live in. Okay, so we've talked about ancient Athens, philosophy, theology, but why does any of this 2,500-year-old debate still matter to us right now? Well, because the questions Plato raised are maybe more relevant than they've ever been. The thing is, these aren't just dusty old questions, they are still very much alive. How much of who we are is hardwired, and how much is learned? When it comes to education, do we need to fill children's minds up with information, or do we just need to help them draw out their innate potential? This ancient debate literally shapes how we think about everything, from artificial intelligence to how we raise our own kids. So I'm going to leave you with one final thought, a kind of puzzle that connects these two worlds. For Socrates, the philosopher, death was the ultimate release, the soul finally breaking free from the prison of the body. So just imagine telling him that the ultimate reward isn't escape at all, but resurrection, getting that very same body back, only perfected. Would he have called that good news or a life sentence? It's a fascinating thing to chew on.